Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. T.H. Jhazaria and today we are talking about systemic lupus erythematosus from rheumatology series. As we have already done with part 1 where we discussed about the introduction, pathogenesis and pathology of SLE. Today we will do part 2 and where we will discuss about the clinical manifestations of systemic lupus erythematosus. So these are the clinical manifestations of SLE like systemic manifestations, fatigue, malaise, fever, weight loss, anorexia, which are commonly present in all SLE patients. Musculoskeletal manifestations like arthralgia, myalgia and non-erosive polyarthritis is also common in SLE patients. When we talk about hematological manifestation, patients generally present with anemia, leukopenia, lymphopenia and thrombocytopenia. Also cutaneous manifestations are very typical about SLE like photosensitivity, malar rays, oral ulcers, alopecia and discoid rays. When we talk about the neurological manifestations, then we will talk about cognitive disorders, seizures and psychosis. In cardiopulmonary manifestations, generally patients present with pleurisy, pericarditis, effusions, myocarditis, endocarditis and coronary artery disease. And in renal manifestations, patients present with proteinuria, cellular cause, nephrotic syndrome and ESRD. Also GI manifestations, thrombosis, both venous and arterial thrombosis are manifested in SLE patients. And lastly, the ocular manifestation like Sicca syndrome, conjunctivitis, episcleritis and vasculitis. So now we will discuss all the clinical manifestations of SLE one by one. So let's start with systemic manifestations. Like fatigue, myalgias, arthralgias are present most of the time in SLE patients. Also, severe systemic illness requiring high dose steroids can occur with fever, prostration, a condition where you are physically and mentally exhausted, weight loss and anemia with or without other organ targeted manifestations. In this picture, you can see all the most common symptoms of SLE. After systemic manifestations, we will talk about the cutaneous manifestations of SLE. So first, lupus dermatitis, when SLE involves skin and it can be acute, subacute and chronic. Discoid lupus erythematosus, this is the most common chronic dermatitis in lupus. So almost 5% people with DLE, that is discoid lupus erythematosus, have SLE and almost 20% SLE patients have DLE, that is discoid lupus erythematosus. Discoid lupus erythematosus DLE present as roughly circular with slightly raised and scaly hyperpigmented erythematous rims and depigmented atrophic centers in which all the dermal appendages are permanently destroyed. As discoid lupus erythematosus can be disfiguring to the face and scalp and generally treated with topical and locally injected steroids and systemic antimalarial drugs. So in this slide, this is how a SLE patient with cutaneous manifestations look alike. Here you can appreciate the butterfly rays, that is typical sign of SLE. Also discoid lupus erythematosus, lupus dermatitis, alopecia and subacute lupus erythematosus. So after lupus dermatitis and discoid lupus erythematosus, we will talk about the butterfly rays, which is pathognomonic and highly particular about SLE. So this is the most common acute SLE rays and present as photosensitive, slightly raised erythema, occasionally scaly on the face, ears, chin and V region of the neck and chest and upper back and extensor surfaces of the arms. Worsening of the rays often accompanies flares of systemic disease. After butterfly rays, we will talk about the subacute cutaneous lupus erythematosus, that is SCLE. So generally this is a photosensitive scaly red patches similar to psoriasis and circular flat red rimmed lesions. So most of the patients, they have subacute cutaneous lupus erythematosus are positive with autoantibodies to Rho, that is SSA. The other races of SLE are recurring urticaria, lichen planus like dermatitis, bullae and panniculitis, also known as lupus profundus. So lupus panniculitis or lupus profundus is a variant of lupus erythematosus that primarily affect the subcutaneous fat. And this can be minor or severe and can be a major presentation of the disease. So here in this picture you can see the scaly red patches which looks like psoriasis or circular flat red rimmed lesions of subacute cutaneous lupus erythematosus which are photosensitive. After cutaneous manifestations, we will talk about the musculoskeletal manifestations of SLE. So, polyarthritis is the most common and ranging from mild to disabling. So, generally, patients complain about the soft tissue swelling and tenderness in joints and tendons, most of the times in hands, wrists, and knees. Almost 10% SLE patients have joint deformities, and 10 to 15% patients have erosions on the joints. Joint pain is the most common reason that why one SLE patient having polyarthritis increases their steroid dose. So, if pain persists in one joint, then ischemic necrosis of bones should be considered because its prevalence is increased in SLE, especially those on systemic steroids. Myositis with weakness, high creatinine kinase, positive MRI, and muscle necrosis and inflammation on biopsy can occur. Although some patients have myalgias without frank myositis. So also glucocorticoid and anti-malarial therapies can cause muscle weakness. So it's very necessary to distinguish from active inflammatory disease. After cutaneous manifestations, we will talk about the renal manifestations of SLE. So nephritis is usually the most serious manifestations of SLE. Nephritis and infection are the leading cause of mortality in the first decade of disease. Usually patients are asymptomatic and hence urine analysis must be ordered. Also renal biopsy is recommended. So patients who are with proliferative forms of glomerular damage like interstitial nephritis class 3 and 4, right? So they usually have microscopic hematuria and proteinuria that is more than 500 mg per 24 hour. Also half of them develop nephrotic syndrome and most of them develop hypertension. If diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis, that is DPGN, is inadequately treated, virtually all patients develop ESRD in 2 years of diagnosis. So aggressive immunosuppression is indicated unless the damage is irreversible. Also importantly, African Americans are more likely to develop ESRD than whites. 20% of SLE patients with proteinuria, usually nephrotic proteinuria, have membranous glomerular changes without proliferative changes on renal biopsy, and their outcome is better than those with diffuse proliferative glomerulonephritis. But patients with class 5 and nephrotic range proteinuria should be treated in the same way as those with class 3 and 4, right? Also, accelerated atherosclerosis becomes an important issue after several years of disease. So attention must be given to control the systemic inflammation, blood pressure, hyperlipidemia, and hyperglycemia. So after renal manifestations, we will talk about the nervous system manifestations of SLE. So whenever the patient comes to your clinic, first we have to ask whether the symptoms are result from the SLE or another condition such as infection in immunosuppressed individuals or side effects of some drugs, so like subtherapies. So if symptoms are related to SLE, then it should be determined whether they are caused by the diffuse process, which requiring the immunosuppression, or vascular occlusive disease, which requiring anticoagulation. In CNS manifestations, we will talk about the cognitive dysfunctions. So this is the most common manifestation of diffuse CNS lupus, and patients generally having the difficulties with memory and reasoning. Also headaches, usually that indicate the SLE flare. When it's milder, that can be difficult to differentiate from migraine and tension headache. Myelopathy, which is often disabling and treated with rapid initiation of immunosuppressive therapy and high doses of glucocorticoids. Psychosis can be dormant manifestation of SLE and it must be distinguished from the glucocorticoid induced psychosis. So glucocorticoid related psychosis usually manifests in the first week of therapy with a daily dose of more than and equal to 40 grams per day, and it resolves after several days if it has been decreased or stopped. Seizures, that is also common in SLE patients and treated with the anti-seizure medications and immunosuppressive therapies. So after CNS manifestations, we will talk about the vascular occlusions including stroke and myocardial infarctions. So generally population who are positive with the antibodies to phospholipids are susceptible to hypercoagulability and acute thrombotic events. In brain, ischemia is generally caused by the focal occlusion or by embolization from the carotid artery plaque or from fibrinous vegetations of Liebman-Sachs endocarditis. So when cerebral events results from the clotting, then long-term anticoagulation is the therapy of choice. So generally in SLE patient, two processes can occur at a time, like vasculitis plus blend vascular occlusions. So in this case, it is appropriate to treat with anticoagulation plus immunosuppression. Myocardial infarction is the primary manifestation of accelerated atherosclerosis. SLE patients are 3 to 10 times at increased risk of myocardial infarction, especially the women less than 49 years age. So what are the characteristics associated with the increased risk of myocardial infarction in SLE patients? So these are male gender, older in age, hypertension, dyslipidemia, diabetes, dysfunctional pro-inflammatory high density lipoproteins, repeated high scores for disease activity, high cumulative or daily dosage of steroids, and high serum level of homocysteine and leptin. So statins are the therapies which reduce LDL and cardiac events, thus reducing myocardial infarction events in SLE patients. Cardiac manifestations. The most common cardiac manifestation of SLE is pericarditis, and that usually respond to anti-inflammatory therapy and infrequently leads tamponade. Tamponade means when there is accumulation of fluid in the pericardial space that causes pressure on the heart, and that's why there is impaired filling of heart. So other most serious manifestations are myocarditis, fibrinous endocarditis of Liebman-Sachs. Also endocardial involvement can lead to valvular insufficiency and most commonly affect the mitral and aortic valve. That's why generally treated with the high dose steroids, but still the improvement has not been proven. So what are the factors which increase the risk of myocardial infarction in SLE patients? So generally it's immune attack, as we know that SLE is one autoimmune disease, chronic inflammation, and chronic oxidative damage to arteries. Pulmonary manifestation. The most common pulmonary manifestation in SLE is pleuritis with or without effusion. When it's mild, then generally patient respond to NSAIDs. When it's severe, then we have to give a brief course of steroid therapy. Also, pulmonary infiltrates also occur as a manifestation, and it's difficult to distinguish from infection on imaging. So if it's not controlled, then generally patients end up with the life-threatening events like interstitial inflammation leading to fibrosis, shrinking lung syndrome, and intra-alveolar hemorrhage. Hematologic manifestations. The most common hematologic manifestation in SLE patient is anemia, and that's normally normochromic and normocytic, which reflect the chronic illness. Also hemolysis that can be rapid in onset and severe. Leukopenia is also common in SLE patient, almost always consists of lymphopenia that rarely predispose a patient to infections and rarely need a therapy. Also thrombocytopenia can be a recurring problem, but if platelet count is more than 40,000 and there is no incidence of bleeding, therapy is not needed. If anemia and thrombocytopenia is recurrent, then additional therapies are required like rituximab, platelet growth factors, and splenectomy. GI manifestations. Nausea, sometimes with vomiting and diarrhea, can be manifestations of SLE in flare. Diffuse abdominal pain can be caused by autoimmune peritonitis and intestinal vasculitis. ALT and AST can be elevated when SLE is active. Vasculitis involving the intestine may be life-threatening as patients present with perforations, ischemia, bleeding, and sepsis, which are the frequent complications, and can be improved with systemic steroid therapy. Ocular manifestations. Sicca syndrome and non-specific conjunctivitis are common in SLE patients and rarely threaten the vision. But renal vasculitis and optic neuritis are serious manifestations that can cause blindness within days to weeks. Aggressive immunosuppression is recommended to treat this kind of patients, but complication of systemic and intraorbital steroids is cataract and glaucoma. So this therapy should be used with caution. Thanks for watching, and this is all about the clinical manifestations of SLE. So now in part 3 we will discuss about the diagnosis of SLE. Since the video is already updated in the rheumatology playlist, please go and watch there. And thanks for listening, and do subscribe the channel for more videos.